VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. We are chatting about the 4-0 Vikings who already have traveled across the pond and will play the Jets, Aaron Rodgers' team. It feels like we get a double dose of Packerism in back-to-back weeks. I'm here with the great Sal Spice. Sally, how is your week going? How is things in general?
Things are going great. Thank you to my fill-in last week, Thor Nystrom, coming in at the last minute with the pinch hitting. I really appreciate that. I saw the views on the video. They were, around about what I would have got. So, so that's good. But I'm great. I was in a Timberwolves commercial that were filmed earlier this week, which is why I didn't end up getting to go to Lambeau, because I'm like, well, if I'm going to be in a commercial, I probably shouldn't have a sunburn or be dehydrated or anything like that. So I'm good, Dustin, but I have to say, I hope you enjoy the next 48 hours. It's going to be the last 48 hours you're undefeated in fantasy football.
Oh, yeah. I have you on the docket. Let's see. Let's be the first
right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a good night across the board. I'm in a lot of leagues, and I have a lot of Mike Evans and Drake London. So I didn't get down in minutia to see if I was trailing in that matchup, but I certainly will.
You are.
All right, so let's talk about. I've had a couple folks on since Sunday talking about Vikings-Packers, and we were criticized a little bit on this channel in the commentary that said you guys are a little negative after a win at Lambeau. And one thing that pissed me off, generally speaking, is 2 seasons back to back. You win at the Packers, and we left both games thinking, oh, pretty cool. Usually it should be time for joyous, like, yeah, we beat these guys. But I want to get your temperature on the win over the Packers, and then we'll talk about some undefeated seasons of Vikings past, because there's a bunch, and then get into the Jet stuff. So give me some positive things that came out of the Vikings Week 4 win that they survived and advanced.
I guess I'm getting that homerism in my old age, because I don't have any complaints about it. And the constant complaints about it that I saw on Twitter really irked me, because I think, yes, if you look at the final score, it tells a different story than if you watch the entire game. The first half, of course, they were dominant, no doubt about that. And the second half, yes, they did end up creeping back in, but you have to take into consideration 2 of those were turnovers. I mean, one was the muffed punt, which set them up perfectly to score. Then the strip sack on Darnold, which he did not see coming, which was deep in their territory. I want to say it was like their 25-yard line or so. Mm-hmm. And then one of those drives was a scramble, within the last 2 minutes, foot on the gas, gotta go. There was only, in my opinion, one drive that was impressive by them. And impressive is a stretch, but so it really didn't. I still left there on cloud 9 thinking that this is a great team. If anything, it gave us at least something to talk about all week long and something to criticize, because we haven't had that. We've had nothing to criticize up until now. So they had, at least maybe that was it. They wanted to give us some talking points, but I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Jonathan Grenard on the Power Trip Morning Show on Tuesday said that the team treated it like a loss. That's how, really? That's how they. I think it's more like motivational. Like, we almost F that thing up, so let's not do it again.
Which they might need. They haven't had haven't had any of those moments to point to and say this is what we need to work on.
Yeah, I've said on this show a few times this week that my favorite thing, aside from the W in the box score, was their first brush with adversity, because they've been too dominant through those first 3 games, and then it felt like they were just utterly off to the races, 28-0 in the second quarter. But when the Packers started, I don't know if they roared back, but they started chipping away, it felt like, oh, yeah, all right, well, we got to survive this thing. And they did, and they're 4-0, and the Chiefs are the only undefeated team. So the positive, like, you're full tilt into Darnold now. I have realized probably after the Texans game that I know this guy can continue to succeed. We don't have to worry about any real regression because he can make all the throws. Are you still 100% on Darnold?
Oh, absolutely. And congrats to that King winning Offensive Player of the Month. Just what a storyline for him. I mean, I get like chills when I talk about it. It's just, if you could have, I don't even think if you would have asked him in the offseason, are you going to win Offensive Player of the Month at this year, do you think? He'd be like, what are you talking about? So yeah, absolutely. I have full confidence in him. I don't think we've seen anything in him. I mean, I know he's had fumbling issues in the past, but even that fumble in Lambeau last week, he just didn't see that coming at all. It was completely blindsided. It wasn't necessarily like we've seen where he panics and he doesn't make a decision quick enough and then it gets stripped. I have so much confidence in him.
Yeah, he's cooking right now, and he's like, I think he ranks fourth or so in the MVP race, if that can be believed. And he's right there for comeback player of the year with Aaron Rodgers. Kevin O'Connell leads the way, coach of the year odds. So everything is trending in the right direction. Yeah, go ahead.
And our report card came out, our NFLPA report card came out. We're second in the report card again overall as far as facilities, coaching, all of that stuff goes. And I don't ever remember this until I get on the show with you, but we have to have Ron on here for an apology segment to Sam Darnold.
Well, he was right about Daniel Jones. He'll probably pivot to that.
He was, but it was years long of slander against him of Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I wasn't overly high on the acquisition either in March, mainly because I wanted the rookie, whoever it would be at the time, to start. But I mean, you'd have to be a damn fool to not acknowledge that Darnold is really reclaimed right now.
Absolutely. And none of us were like, listen, there was nobody who was like chomping at the bit for this guy in the offseason. So I'm not necessarily trying to say that. It's just with Ron, it was the entire 3 years that we knew him. It would be a Sam Darnold name drop every single show or Daniel Jones. So, but yeah, I think I honestly feel I feel disappointed in myself because it's my thing that I get attached to these underdog stories and I want them to do well. And maybe I hold on to them for too long, like way past the expiration date, and I'm still invested in their careers and stuff. And I didn't see this one coming with Sam Darnold. I should have been driving the bus on that.
Well,
I totally missed it.
I think what you risked was because the bottom fell out on Dobbs so fast that I think you were probably subconsciously paranoid that, do I really want to do this again and be disappointed? Let's wait and see how it goes.
It was too close for sure. That's a good point. I hadn't put those two together. But he's also a redhead. He's a ginger. Like this was totally my wheelhouse here.
Well, you're here now, and it's all smiles. So, what about any negatives that came out of that 31-29 win in Lambeau?
All I can really think of is what we've already touched on, just the comeback. But I can spin into a positive. So I really have nothing.
That's good news. Because like I was on a show, Skull Hop. I was on that Skull Hop show, let's see, Wednesday or Thursday night, and was talking about the team. And yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find the negative stuff. You have to get real nitpicky to find things like the giveaways are still there, the fumbles and interceptions, but the team is balancing them out with their own defensive takeaways. So hopefully that pace continues, because believe it or not, the fumble and interception pace is comparable to last year. It just doesn't feel like it because we're getting them back.
Well, let me ask you this, because I actually haven't seen the answer to this yet. Why has Kevin O'Connell said why he chose to that play call on 3rd and 1 to Brandon Powell that ended, or not? Sorry, it wasn't 3rd and 1, but 3rd down that got Brandon Powell hurt and then he went out? Because that was a peculiar play call to begin with, I feel like, and then there were obviously consequences that affected the punt.
No, he didn't. I didn't see anything of him saying the reasoning, but I saw the Brandon Powell came out flat out joking, like with a smile on his face, says Sam Darnold got me hurt. And yeah, he said that, like, that was his fault. That's what he said. And that was it was. Yeah, I mean, it was like, he was smiling when he said it, because Darnold was like, oh, shit, and had to apologize right afterward. And that was the butterfly effect, because Powell wasn't in there to field the punt. Naylor came in with the sun in his eyes and caught the ball, like tried to catch it over his head. Like, what are you doing? This isn't a pass like in a secondary. This is a punt return.
Well, Brandon Powell did at least establish some job security that day.
Oh, yeah, he's so dependable in that realm. Let's talk about some of the I don't know. I don't have a lot of fears about this team going the way of the 2016 team, which inconveniently has the exact same bye week by 6. They started 5-0, but I do get asked that somewhat frequently. So last week, before we had to cancel, I asked you to rank some of the undefeated seasons of Vikings past, at least during our fandom. Notable ones are this one, 2016, 2009, 2003, 2000. 1998, 1996, those are undefeated starts. I can't remember if those all went 4-0, at least 3-0. But how did you check in with that assignment from last week? Rank some of these teams of Vikings past the start of the season undefeated.
Yes. Okay. So I think that the assignment was excitement meter going into those.
Yeah.
And my first one is 2009, obviously, especially where we were at the point of when I did this. That was after the pass to Greg Lewis from Brett Favre. Unbelievable catch. And I think with the 2009 also, there was all of the off-season drama. Is Favre going to come? Is he not going to come? There's, the helicopter, the plane going to get him, and all of that. So I think especially after that week 3 win, it kind of felt like this is meant to be. This and the personalities of that team, I feel, are very similar to this team. It's kind of, the storylines are similar. Obviously, we don't have a Hall of Fame quarterback coming in, but we have a quarterback that kind of came out of nowhere and is leading our team. So 2009 is obviously number 1 for me. And then this is sad, but I think 2016 is number 2 for me because we've talked about this a lot. How, again, they come off winning the division, they're on the rise. Teddy goes down, and then all of a sudden we've got Sam Bradford, and now we've got it figured out, and this is going to be the way the team was supposed to be. We've just got a new guy driving the bus. So, oh my God, I haven't said that out loud yet, but that's actually really similar.
Well, they had the same
just
first
realizing
name.
It.
Well, yeah, but those things are markedly different because this team is so much more balanced than 2016 team. Although it was more than fair to be really excited about a 5-0 start, that team was getting away with a lot. There was a lot of defensive scoring, some special teams touchdowns, and then when it got to the offensive side of the ball, you just kind of hoped for the best. Adrian Peterson tore his meniscus, another similarity to that season, and then they tried their damnedest with Jerick McKinnon and Matt Asiata, but they couldn't run the football. And this year is the total opposite. So I will maintain and swear on it that the offense is much better. At least it's playing much better at this time in 2024 than at that time in 2016. The defenses are probably comparable because Zimmer was just hitting his stride. But I won't be absolutely stunned if that happens again because, we're Vikings fans. But I just think this team is more balanced. And the point differential right now, that tells the story. It's plus 57, and the 2016 team did not have that. I'll have to pull up what it was, but it certainly wasn't that.
Yeah, absolutely. And who saw this offensive line coming together like this? This is what we've been praying for, I think, since way back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that team definitely did not have this offensive line either. All right. After that, I've got 2003. Okay. And that is because that's the first season that I ever remember watching start to end because we had season ticket or Sunday ticket. And then I was a little, I was younger for 98. 98 is the first season I ever watched. And then 2000. So 2003, I still had those purple glasses on. I had those losses in the NFC Championship, but I was too young to really understand.
Yeah.
So I had the biggest ego. I was going to school talking crap to my friends about my undefeated team. And then Josh McCown, new quarterbacks coach, and ends our season there against Arizona in the last second.
Yeah, that one ranks higher than this one for me because in 2003, let's see, in the last 5 years at that time, you had 2 NFC Championship appearances. Moss was still in his prime. And then in Dante Culpepper, you thought or you knew that you had a top 10 quarterback. Whereas with Sam Darnold, we're just hoping right now that it's sustainable. And that was a 6-0 start for those Vikings as well. And that's why it was so sinful that it collapsed.
Missed the playoffs. 6-0, missing the playoffs.
That was a Mike Tice team that wasn't really good on defense, unlike this team, but it was super exciting because we thought we had the horses to just outscore everybody. So that one would outpace this one for me. So would 2009, obviously. Because you knew that Brett Favre could do the thing you're hoping right now Sam Darnold could. And then 98 was so fascinating because it was also brand new that an offense could be that prolific. I think that one probably, 98 and 2009 would probably be a tie for me. The Favre factor was really real in 2009, but the 98 team was just becoming dominant about this point on the calendar. Randall Cunningham was hitting his groove. And then some honorable mentions. 2000 was pretty sweet. 96 was my first year as a Vikings fan, and that was still pretty casual fan status. So it sounds like we have 2024 not quite up there with the almost storybook seasons, but we give it a little bit more tip of the cap to 2016, for example. Are you there?
Well, this season, I think, is just completely different than all the ones we just listed because nobody saw it coming.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be a rebuild or a soft rebuild, depending on who you ask. And this is totally out of nowhere that this happened, and especially oh my gosh, especially how they are winning the games.
Mm-hmm.
It's dominant, and that is how it is different than a lot of the ones that we just listed. But I mean, those teams all had expectations put on them. Maybe not 1998, but the other ones did.
Yeah, and this team was supposed to win about 6 or 7 games according to odds makers, and now that son of a bitch has ballooned all the way up to 11.5 thanks to the start. One of the things I love the most when I take a step back and I figure out, how do we get here to this 4-0 start after, my goodness, 6 months of assuming they were going to be mediocre. One of my favorite things to think about is how Kwesi Adolpho-Mensah really outwardly professed that this is going to be a competitive rebuild when he took the job in 2022. And if you're willing to give him that patience, which I think a lot of us were, this is exactly what you would want at this time on the timeline. Like, he had 3 off seasons to rebuild the team in a vision of his own with a shitty first draft. And the last 2 drafts have proven a little bit better, at least so far. And then the free agents he's onboarded. This is like textbook that you take the job, you rebuild the team. Maybe you didn't do it as quickly as some would like, especially at QB1. But this is exactly where you want to be when you have a regime change. Year 3, you're contending for a Super Bowl. And it feels like they're doing that through 4 games.
Absolutely. And especially with a huge change at quarterback in the offseason, to be in this place, it is so unexpected and unbelievable. I came across, I was stalking my old TikToks last night because I'm trying to be a little bit more active on the TikTok. And I had this one, of course, all of mine about Kirk Cousins are the ones that are like viral. And I was watching this one and I was like trying to plead my case that it's very frustrating that you can't live in a gray area on your opinion about Kirk Cousins. It has to be so polarizing. And my argument for why I did not want them to re-sign him in 2022 was I don't feel this team is a season or 2 seasons away from winning a Super Bowl. So I do not agree with investing the resources in that one position because I think they need to work on so much else. And then lo and behold, here we are 2 years later, he's gone, but we are competing for a Super Bowl. So it's like, I was half right in that assessment, I guess, but I never thought that they would be competing for a Super Bowl anytime soon. And here they are, best team in the league.
I think it's
best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, well, by the numbers, yeah. I think it's becoming a testament to Kevin O'Connell and the way his system works. I keep getting... So we know that Kwesi Adolpho-Mensah came from the San Francisco 49ers. That's where he was reared as an executive. We know that Kevin O'Connell is from that kind of McVay, Shanahan school of thought. I'm starting just to believe, and I said this a little bit last year when Dobbs was getting going, is I think we're becoming one of those teams where as long as you put in a decent quarterback, you're going to have that 49ers feel about it that, well, O'Connell's going to out-scheme you. He knows how to do it. And I know the 49ers haven't quite hit the promised land with that system, but I think that's where O'Connell is with these Vikings at quarterback, is as long as the guy is pretty good and can make the throws, I think we've turned the corner that the Vikings are always going to be relevant so long as he employed. Do you disagree?
Oh, no, not at all. I think so. I think that we have always been of the mindset of, Kevin O'Connell, former quarterback, he's going to put guys in the best position to succeed. And as long as they're serviceable, he's going to get the best out of them, which we have seen in the past, unless I guess, well, we don't need to bring up those ones. But Kellen Mond, obviously, when he came,
well, they got rid of him real quick.
Right. Yeah. They were like, no, this is not it. So maybe that is actually a compliment to him. And Jaron Hall, still to this day, I don't understand that pick, but absolutely. I mean, how can you argue against that? Even with Josh Dobbs, the brief time that his success lasted, it was unbelievable. And so I think it is a testament to Kevin O'Connell that in the offseason, this is who he saw as his bridge quarterback. This is who he wanted to go after. And he's getting the best out of him that anybody ever has. So how can you argue against that?
I think that's where we're at. And it's easier to understand, like, Vikings football, why it's going the way it is right now if you believe in that mindset. Like, I still don't think if you tossed Brock Purdy on the Patriots that
No.
they would be good. I
No.
don't think if you put Darnold on the Patriots, they would have a winning record. But I think if you have that special connection in that system, like Shanahan does with pretty much anybody that comes through that door, and now I think that's where we're at with O'Connell, and that's why Dobbs was so scintillating for those 2 games, and then Mullins was throwing for 400 yards in this system. So hopefully we're there. All right, let's talk a little bit about
I forgot.
the.
I didn't even give a shout out to our guy Dante Culpepper. I'm repping him on the sweatshirt. I just connected the dots there.
No, it's not too late. We got it.
Yeah, we got Dante Culpepper on the sweatshirt. Well, and last thing about that, I think it also has to do with his mindset. And on that report card that came out, it was that 98% of the players that were surveyed for the NFLPA said that they have a positive opinion of their head coach, and it was overwhelming, even the opinion that they had of him. So that was the absolute highest in the league. And if you've got a guy like that, former quarterback, who is taking somebody with wounded, depleted confidence, and he's choosing you and he's putting you in the best place to a game plan that's going to help you succeed, it's a win. It's a no-brainer for the guys.
Yeah, I even get as curious to wonder, like, since we saw Mullins, 3 or 4 games last year, I wonder how, like, Brett Rippon would do. I know hopefully we don't have to see him, but I get curious to know, like, O'Connell picked Brett Rippon. I wonder what he could do. All right, let's talk about the Jets in London. This will probably surprise you. I think the Vikings are going to lose this game.
What?
Yeah, I've polled Vikings fans. I write an article about fans' predictions every week, and then our Vikings territory writers. Right now, I'm the only guy that thinks the Jets are going to win. So here's where I'm at. The Jets, no matter what, they have a wonderful defense. It's right up there with the Vikings in terms of talent and performance. Aaron Rodgers will probably know the Vikings more than anybody else. I think the defensive personnel is about 35-40% similar. And I don't know. I think the Jets losing to the Broncos, they're a little bit more desperate than the Vikings. And I don't know. I think this is probably derived from the last hour and a half of Sunday's Packers game, where I saw like a little bit of the exposure, like, oh man. So there is some of that grossness in there. I think the Jets are going to find a way to win this one by a field goal or so. But I invite you to tell me why that's incorrect, because most of the world's picking the Vikings.
Well, I think obviously I'm biased. It's been 4 weeks of unexpected pure bliss and very minimal complaints. So I think it's hard for me to even go to that other side. Which who the hell is this? I know. But I did watch the majority of that game against Denver, because where I was, that was the other game that was on. And the weather conditions were absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
It wasn't just rain, it was intense downpour the entire time. So I will give him a little bit of a pass with that, but the desperation argument is probably true to an extent. I think Aaron Rodgers, it also depends what version of him you're going to get. I think Brian Flores is going to show him something that he possibly hasn't seen before, despite how many years he's been in the league, because we've heard other quarterbacks say that up until this point, who are substantially younger and are not as experienced. But I think they're going to give him a run for his money, and he might regret even coming back into the league and not retiring. Their defense, yes, is going to be, I think, the biggest challenge that they've had yet, especially the secondary. But I don't know. I can't pick against them.
Yeah,
And
they're
I've heard
undefeated in London too.
Yes, undefeated in London. I had Nicole on my show last night, Vikings WTF, because she lives in London right now. And she was just telling me about the vibe there, and it's overwhelming Vikings fans there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that in London, if you're the home team, they really do go out of their way to promote it as the Vikings home team. So all of the pregame official festivities and things by the NFL are Vikings activities. Obviously, I'm sure there's some Jets fans there, but it's not all tailored to get them. So I think that also the crowd might have a little bit to do with it as well, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm glad they give us a little bit of a boost with that shit, because I'm still salty that they took the U.S. Bank home game away. Oh, I hate that.
Hate it.
It gets on my nerves, especially. Well, here's how I reconciled it this summer. I was like, well, they're only going to be 7-10 anyway, so who cares? And then now, of course, they're like tunneling toward this glorious record. It's like, well, we could have used that damn home game.
Could have used it, and we got 4 in fucking December.
Yeah. So let's see. Is there anything else we haven't got? Anything that comes to mind before we log off for the weekend about maybe free agents they could add, trades that they could explore, because 'tis the season. The trade deadline is on election day, believe it or not.
I
Um,
know.
and it's going to be a busy day for this guy. So
Ugh, Twitter.
is there? Yeah. Oh yeah. Good luck. Is there any spots on the roster that you'd say, hey, sweet, if they got another cornerback, or they should look at Dexter Lawrence if he's available? Is there anything on this roster that has you think needs some attention?
I think all of the big names that are getting tossed around have got to be pretty unrealistic, like Dexter Lawrence. I see people saying Devontae Adams. I don't see any of those coming. Which, in fact, I don't know why. I mean, the Jets should have gotten this Devontae Adams thing going a little quicker so they could have him in London, because I feel just he's going to want to go play with Aaron if at least he gets the opportunity. Well, it's not up to him, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. I think maybe I'm not going there mentally because of the draft capital situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's realistic that they're going to be able to give up much. I know they've made things happen in the past, but I'm not really, I don't know. I don't see it. What do you think?
No, I'm right there with you, because Dallas Turner, that trade was so expensive. It basically wiped out everything but a first and fifth and sixth. Thankfully, we get a compensatory pick for Kirk leaving, so that will be sweet. But if Dexter Lawrence, in theory, was
Yeah.
available, he's only 26 and he's the best nose tackle in football. I would send the first rounder from next year for Dexter Lawrence, because that pick's probably going to be in the 20s. Hopefully it's 32.
Mhm.
But that pick is different now. We thought we were going to
Yes.
be mid, but apparently we're not. So I would,
True.
because of Dexter Lawrence's age. But the thing is, I just don't know if the Giants are selling him. Like they have
Right.
Dexter Lawrence and Malik Neighbors as the only two foundational players, and I don't know why they would do it. So I can't figure out if it's an NFL trade rumor thing or a Vikings fan rumor thing. But we'll get more into that because the trade deadline is still about 4 weeks away. All right,
Well,
what's
and
your?
also,
Mhm.
oh, sorry. Well, and also, if they are still undefeated or only one loss or so in November, I think then you don't really worry so much about the draft capital in the future, because your window is open for the Super Bowl. And so if you think you can win a Super Bowl with this team, then give up whatever you have to give
Yeah,
up if there's a guy available that can change your team and potentially get you there, which I think maybe is realistic. They might be in that position, but is there going to be a guy out there that's going to completely take this roster to the next level?
yeah. This just made me think of, and I promise I won't nudge you to it until January. I cannot wait to chat with you about Darnold McCarthy debates, because those bad boys will be here before you know it.
I know, I know. And it's again, it's like, oh, what the heck is going on? They finally do the right thing. They finally do what we've been clamoring for years and years and years and years and years. And now they're in this position. Like, how?
Yeah.
How?
It also came to mind that when we were talking about free agents or trades just a second ago, I can't remember a time as a Vikings fan where I'm like, yeah, we don't really need anything. It's cool.
Right.
Mainly because the offensive line always has felt like it needed help before O'Connell got here. I never remember getting towards October and be like, yeah, we don't need anything.
And we don't
Um,
even have Hawkinson back yet.
yeah, I know it's going to just soar to new heights, and he should be back here in about 2 or 3 weeks. I
Yeah.
have the Vikings losing to the Jets begrudgingly 23-20. I just have a nagging feeling that this is the one. And I won't be mad one iota. I'll be like, all right, they got that out of the way. They can go beat the Lions when they get back from the bye. What is your score prediction?
Um, I feel like every time I've went with a low score, it's been relatively high. So I will say 30. Oh God, but they are playing. Maybe I think they'll have some defensive scores actually. So I'm going to say 35
Oh wow.
to, let's go 27.
Okay, so yeah, we'll take that. That'd be actually kind of high scoring. The defensive scores would be pretty. Gonna name it the guy who scores.
Um, Maybe we'll say, I mean, I don't know how realistic this is. I'm going to say Harrison Smith, just because he got the call outs this week from Aaron,
Mm-hmm.
and Aaron's giving him his flowers. He's singing his praises, and he said he's picked me off twice in my career. So go ahead and make it 3.
Yeah, this is also. I don't think I've said this on air all week. It's probably the last time the Vikings will ever see Aaron Rodgers, barring like a Super Bowl matchup or something. He's probably not going to play too much longer, and the Vikings, I don't think, play the Jets anytime soon. All
We'll
right,
pour one
so
out for him. We'll pour one out for him.
first and Skull. How was it? One or two episodes per week?
I'm doing 2 episodes per week, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And then I'm dabbling in the post-game show, but we'll see how realistic
Yeah, you're
it
kind
is
of
for
busy.
me.
You're kind of busy for that.
I'm busy. Yes.
Yep. All
Yes.
right, Sally. We'll talk to you next Friday. Actually, it'll be a bye-week show, and then we can kind of dive
Ooh.
into some more roster minutia. Okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some news next week on the bye
Yeah.
week
All
for
right. Take
me.
it easy.
Okay.
Later.
Bye.